The world stopped when Ethan kissed me under the bleachers. His lips a reckless promise that shattered my carefully guarded heart. I was 16, a lanky kid with dreams too big for our small New England town. And he was the golden boy who made rebellion taste like summer. By the time I realized his love was a game, I was already broken, and the only one left to pick up the pieces was the last person I ever expected. My name is Caleb Winters, and I grew up in Willow Creek, a place where secrets festered like damp, rotten old wood. It was 2018, and I was a junior at Willow Creek High, navigating the suffocating hallways where jocks ruled, and anyone who didn't fit the mold was invisible. I was one of the invisible ones, or so I thought, until Ethan Harper noticed me. He was the quarterback, all charm and confidence, with a smile that could unravel anyone. I was the art kid, sketching in the margins of my notebooks, my world a tangle of charcoal lines and unspoken truths. I'd known I was gay since I was 12, but in a town like ours, that was a secret you buried deep. Ethan changed everything. It started with stolen glances in history class, his blue eyes catching mine across the room. Then came the notes slipped into my locker, scrawled with promises of "meet me tonight" in his messy handwriting. I should have known better. Guys like Ethan didn't fall for guys like me. But when he pulled me into the shadows behind the football field and kissed me, it felt like the universe had rewritten itself just for us. For 3 months, we were a secret symphony, late-night texts, clandestine meetings, his hand brushing mine in the dark. I was drowning in him, and I didn't care. But Ethan was playing a game I didn't understand. At school, he was still the king, surrounded by his teammates and his cheerleader girlfriend, Lauren. To them, I was nothing. To me, he was everything. The first crack appeared when I overheard him laughing with his friends about messing with the art freak. My heart sank, but I convinced myself it was a misunderstanding. I was wrong. The final blow came at the homecoming game, when Lauren confronted me in front of half the school, her voice dripping with venom. "You really thought Ethan wanted you?" It was a dare, Caleb. A stupid bet. The crowd's laughter burned into my skin, and Ethan just stood there, his silence louder than any apology. I walked away that night, my heart a shattered mosaic, vowing never to let anyone in again. Willow Creek became a prison, and I was counting the days until graduation. But fate had other plans. Enter Noah Sullivan, Ethan's rival, the brooding outcast who'd been my enemy since middle school. Noah was everything Ethan wasn't, sharp-tongued, unapologetically himself, with a reputation for trouble that followed him like a shadow. We'd clashed for years over stupid things like who got the last easel in art class or whose project deserved the teacher's praise. I hated him, or so I thought. It was a week after the homecoming disaster when Noah found me sitting alone by the creek, my sketchbook abandoned beside me. "You look like someone ran over your soul," he said, his voice softer than I expected. I snapped at him to leave me alone, but he didn't. Instead, he sat down, his leather jacket creaking, and started talking about music, about the stars, about anything but Ethan. I didn't trust him, not at first. Why would I? He was the guy who'd once tripped me in the hallway just to laugh. But something in his eyes, a flicker of understanding, made me listen. Over the next few weeks, Noah became a constant. He'd show up at my locker, toss me a pencil when mine broke, or drag me to the diner when I forgot to eat. I kept waiting for the catch, for him to reveal it was all another cruel joke. But Noah wasn't Ethan. He didn't hide who he was, didn't care what the town thought. He was openly gay, a fact that made him a target in Willow Creek. Yet he wore it like armor. Slowly, I started to see him differently. His sarcasm hid a quiet kindness, his defiance a strength I envied. I didn't want to admit it, but I was falling and it terrified me. One night, as we sat on the hood of his beat-up Chevy, the air thick with the scent of pine and regret, Noah turned to me. "You're not invisible, Caleb," he said, his voice low. "You never were." My breath caught. And for the first time since Ethan, I felt seen. But trusting again felt like stepping off a cliff. Could I risk my heart with someone I'd spent years hating? And what would happen when Ethan, still lurking in the corners of my life, realized I was moving on? The autumn leaves were falling like embers by the time Noah and I started spending real time together. Willow Creek's whispers grew louder. People noticed us. The art kid and the rebel. An unlikely pair. I could feel Ethan's gaze on us in the hallways. His jaw tight. But I told myself I didn't care. I was done with his games. Yet, every time Noah's hand brushed mine or he laughed at one of my dumb sketches, a part of me braced for betrayal. Trust was a fragile thing, and mine was still in pieces. Noah was relentless, though. He dragged me to the old record store downtown, where we'd argue over vinyls. He loved punk. I leaned toward indie. Your taste is tragic, he'd tease. But his grin made my chest ache in a way I wasn't ready to name. We'd spend hours at the creek, sketching or just talking, the world fading until it was just us. He told me about his mom, who'd left when he was 10, and his dad, who barely spoke to him after he came out. I shared my own scars, my parents' endless fights, my fear of being stuck in this town forever. With Noah, I didn't have to hide. But Ethan wasn't done with me. One afternoon, he cornered me behind the gym, his face a mix of regret and something darker. You're really hanging out with Sullivan now? He spat, like it was an accusation. I wanted to scream at him, to ask why he cared after what he'd done. Instead, I just walked away, my heart pounding. That night, Noah found me at the creek again, my hands shaking as I tried to draw. He doesn't get to own you, Caleb, Noah said, his voice steady. No one does. He reached for my hand, and I let him hold it, the warmth of his touch grounding me. The tension in Willow Creek was building like a storm. Ethan's friends started spreading rumors, calling Noah and me names I won't repeat. Lauren, Ethan's girlfriend, made it her mission to make my life hell, leaving cruel notes in my locker or accidentally spilling her coffee on my sketchbook. I wanted to disappear, but Noah wouldn't let me. They're scared of us, he said one night, his eyes fierce. Two guys who don't bow down. That's their worst nightmare. His words lit something in me, a spark of defiance I hadn't known I had. Then came the fall festival, the town's big event. Noah convinced me to go, promising we'd stick to the shadows and avoid trouble. We wandered through the twinkling lights, sharing cotton candy, his shoulder brushing mine. For a moment, I forgot about Ethan, about the town's judgment. But trouble found us. Ethan and his crew showed up, drunk and looking for a fight. You think you're better than me now, Winters? Ethan slurred, stepping too close. Noah stepped between us, his voice low and dangerous. Back off, Harper. The air crackled, and I thought it would end in fists. But Ethan just laughed, a hollow sound, and walked away. That night, Noah drove me home, the silence between us heavy. You okay? He asked, pulling over near my house. I nodded, but I wasn't. Ethan's words had dug into old wounds, and I was scared of what I felt for Noah, scared of what it meant. I don't know how to do this, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. Noah looked at me, his eyes soft but intense. You don't have to do it alone, he said. Then he leaned in, and when his lips met mine, it was like the world finally made sense. The kiss was slow, careful, nothing like Ethan's reckless fire. It was real. But the next day, everything changed. Someone had seen us at the festival. By morning, the rumors had spread like wildfire, and my parents were waiting for me at the kitchen table. Is it true? My mom asked, her voice trembling. My dad wouldn't even look at me. I'd never come out to them, I wasn't ready. But Willow Creek had decided for me. At school, the stares were unbearable, and Ethan's smirk was worse. Told you you'd regret crossing me, he said, passing me in the hall. I wanted to run, but Noah was there, his hand on my shoulder. We'll get through this, he promised. I wanted to believe him, but the town was closing in, and I wasn't sure we could outrun it. The weeks after the festival were a blur of whispers and glares. Willow Creek had always been a small town, but now it felt like a cage. My parents barely spoke to me. Their disappointment, a heavy silence. At school, Noah was my anchor, but even he couldn't shield me from everything. The rumors grew uglier, and Ethan's friends took every chance to remind me I didn't belong. One day, someone spray-painted a slur on my locker. I scrubbed it off until my hands bled, but the word lingered in my mind. Noah was furious when he saw it. "They're cowards," he said, his fists clenched. I wanted to believe him, but fear was creeping in. What if this was my life now? What if I'd never escape? Noah seemed to sense it, because he started planning. "Let's get out of here," he said one night, lying on the grass by the creek. "After graduation, we'll go somewhere new, Boston, New York, anywhere but here." His words were a lifeline, but they also scared me. Leaving meant facing the unknown, and I wasn't sure I was strong enough. Ethan, meanwhile, wasn't letting go. He'd stopped confronting me directly, but I'd catch him watching us, his eyes dark with something I couldn't read. One afternoon, he slipped a note into my bag during art class. It read, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I tore it up, but the words haunted me. Was he sorry? Or was this just another move in his game? I didn't tell Noah about it. I didn't want to give Ethan that power. But the note was a reminder that he was still there, a shadow I couldn't shake. As winter settled over Willow Creek, Noah and I grew closer. We'd sneak into the old theater downtown, watching indie films in the dark, our hands tangled under a shared blanket. He'd sketch with me sometimes, his lines messy but full of heart. I started to see the world through his eyes, bold, unapologetic, beautiful. But the town's judgment was relentless. My parents grounded me after they found out I'd been sneaking out with Noah. "He's trouble, Caleb," my dad said, his voice cold. "You're throwing your life away." I wanted to scream that Noah was the only thing keeping me together, but I just nodded and retreated to my room. Then came the night that changed everything. Noah and I were at the creek, the air sharp with frost, when we heard footsteps. It was Ethan, alone, his face pale in the moonlight. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice unsteady. Noah stepped forward, protective, but I stopped him. "Let him say it," I said, my heart racing. Ethan looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something real in his eyes, pain, maybe regret. "I messed up, Caleb," he said. It wasn't just a game. I felt something. My stomach twisted. Was he serious? After everything, was he trying to pull me back? Noah's voice cut through the silence. "You don't get to do this, Harper. You don't get to hurt him and then pretend you care." Ethan flinched, but he didn't back down. "I'm not talking to you, Sullivan." The tension was electric, and I felt like I was standing on a fault line. I didn't know what to believe. Ethan had broken me, but his words stirred something, doubt, maybe hope. I hated myself for it. "I need time," I told him, my voice shaking. He nodded and left, disappearing into the dark. Noah was quiet on the drive home, his hands tight on the wheel. "You don't owe him anything," he said finally. I knew he was right, but Ethan's confession had cracked something open in me. I was caught between the boy who destroyed me and the one who was trying to save me. As we pulled up to my house, Noah looked at me, his eyes searching. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, "but you need to decide what you want." He drove off, leaving me alone with my thoughts, the weight of his words pressing down on me. The days after Ethan's confession were a storm of confusion. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't draw. My sketchbook lay untouched, the blank pages mocking me. Noah gave me space, but I felt his absence like a missing limb. At school, Ethan kept his distance, but his eyes followed me, heavy with unspoken words. I hated how much power he still had over me. How a single sentence from him could unravel everything I'd built with Noah. I tried to focus on the future. Noah's plan to leave Willow Creek after graduation was starting to feel real. We'd talk about it late at night, whispering about apartments in Boston, art school, a life where we didn't have to hide. But Ethan's words, I felt something kept creeping in, poisoning my thoughts. What if he was telling the truth? What if I'd misjudged him? I hated myself for even considering it. But the heart doesn't always listen to reason. One evening, I found Ethan waiting for me outside the library. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice low. Against my better judgment, I nodded. We walked to the park, the air thick with the scent of snow. He told me everything, how the dare had started as a joke, how he hadn't expected to feel anything, how he panicked when things got real. I was scared. "Caleb," he said, his voice breaking. I didn't know how to handle it. I wanted to believe him, but the memory of his betrayal was still raw. "You humiliated me," I said. "You let them laugh." He looked away, shame written across his face. "I know. I'm sorry." I went home that night and cried, the weight of it all too much. I wanted to hate Ethan, but a part of me still remembered the boy who'd kissed me under the bleachers. I was torn, and it was tearing me apart. Noah deserved better than this. He'd been there when I was broken, had seen me at my worst and stayed. But Ethan's apology had stirred something I couldn't ignore. The breaking point came at the winter talent show. Noah had convinced me to submit a painting, a vibrant piece inspired by our nights at the creek. I was nervous, but he was there, cheering me on from the front row. Ethan was there too, sitting a few rows back, his face unreadable. When my painting was unveiled, the room went quiet. It was bold, raw, a swirl of colors that told the story of my heart pain, love, hope. The applause was deafening, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged. After the show, Noah found me backstage, his smile brighter than the stage lights. "You were incredible," he said, pulling me into a hug. I wanted to stay in that moment forever. But then Ethan appeared. "Can I talk to you?" he asked, his voice urgent. Noah's jaw tightened, but he stepped back. "Your call, Caleb," he said, and walked away. Ethan looked at me, his eyes pleading. "I'm leaving Willow Creek," he said. "Come with me. We can start over." My heart stopped. Ethan was offering me the escape I dreamed of, but with him, not Noah. I stood there, caught between two futures. Ethan, the boy who'd broken me but claimed to love me. Noah, the enemy who'd become my everything. I thought of the nights with Noah, the way he made me feel seen, the way he fought for me. And I thought of Ethan, the boy who'd taught me love could hurt. "I can't," I said finally, my voice steady. "I deserve better." Ethan's face fell, but he nodded and walked away. I felt a weight lift, but the ache remained. Saying no to Ethan was like cutting a piece of myself away, but it was the right kind of pain. I found Noah by the creek that night, sitting on our usual rock, his breath visible in the cold air. "I chose you," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. He looked at me, his eyes wide, then pulled me into his arms. "You idiot," he whispered, but his voice was warm, and his kiss was home. The rest of senior year wasn't easy. Willow Creek didn't change overnight. There were still whispers, still glares. But Noah and I faced them together. My parents started to come around, slowly, after I sat them down and told them everything about Ethan, about Noah, about who I was. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. At school, some people surprised me. A few of Ethan's old friends apologized, and Lauren even stopped targeting me. Ethan left town before graduation, and I heard he was starting over somewhere new. I hoped he'd find peace, but he wasn't my story anymore. Noah and I made plans. We applied to art schools in Boston, pooling our savings for a tiny apartment we'd probably hate but love anyway. The night before graduation, We drove to the cliff overlooking the town, the same one where we'd spent so many nights dreaming. The stars were endless, and Noah's hand was warm in mine. "We did it," he said, his voice soft. "We got through." I leaned against him, my heart full. "Yeah," I said, "and we're just getting started." Graduation was a blur of caps and gowns, cheers and tears. My painting from the talent show hung in the school's art room, a quiet reminder of how far I'd come. Noah and I walked across the stage together, our hands brushing as we tossed our caps into the air. The town that had tried to break us was behind us, and the future was ours. Looking back, I realized love wasn't just a game or a battle, it was a choice. Ethan taught me how to fall, but Noah taught me how to stand. I'd walked away from a lie and straight into something real, something worth fighting for. As we packed up Noah's Chevy and drove toward Boston, the road stretching out before us, I knew one thing for sure: love wasn't perfect. But with Noah, it was true. And that was enough.